Hey, happy Labor Day, everybody. Jim from Jim's Holiest at Coleus. All right, this time of year here in New Jersey, we're a winter zone. So, I do this year after year. It's just a progression from when I start my seeds in February up right through this time of year where I start collecting my seeds and also cutting. So today's video I'm going to do some cuttings just to show you if you're new to Coleus, or if you're not aware of what cuttings are, what you can do with Coleus. It's one of the highlights of Coleus plants is, depending on what you want to do, if you don't want to grow Coleus from seed, or you don't really, or you don't want to bring a plant in. You don't want to bring a pot with soil. You don't want to have to deal with that. Your other option is, like I do, is take numerous cuttings and put them in bud vases. Take numerous cuttings and root them. And then rootings generally will last all through the fall and winter. And then you can replant them like I do with the Lord Baltimore. So I'll show you real quick. You can root any type of Coleus, but I found some of them may not do as well as others. So I'll take numerous ones, but if you're a regular follower, you know that some of the Coleus, like the Lord Baltimores or the Fishnets, and those are two specific varieties that I always cut and root over the winter, because they're just very hardy, and I can't get any Lord Baltimores, so I just continually root them, keep numerous rootings, and following year replant it and have a new plant. So, but I'll just show you, just give you a general idea how to do it, and just some pointers on keeping your rootings going all fall and winter. I start them around this time of year, September. And yes, I keep them going all fall and winter into spring. Very little maintenance, and replant them in the late spring. So let's get to it. Okay, so yeah, so again, if you're new to my channel, this is Lord Baltimore Coleus, and this was originally in the beginning of the season. I believe it was 4 cuttings from last year. And I just planted it, and here it is. Look at how beautiful this is. So I already took a few cuttings. I'm going to show you them now, and I may take a few more. I'm probably going to take about 2 or 3 more. I usually keep around 6 cuttings, but this lasts because it's a very hardy stemmed Coleus. The stems are very hardy, thick, and they make perfect cuttings and rootings. They root very well, and they're very hardy, and they generally, I have probably a 90%. I don't lose. I don't think I've ever lost a Lord Voldemort, but because I really love this plant, I always take 6 of them anyway, because you never know. Every year it may be a little different. Maybe one of these won't. Maybe there might be 1 or 2 that don't make it. So, but I usually try to pick out the really the darkest, the richest, healthiest root cutting, and then I'll show you exactly how to go about keeping them as cuttings, as rootings. And here is this monster fishnet. I can get fishnets still. I get them from Rosie Dawn, and I will buy. Generally, this year I think I did buy one. But I had 2 cuttings left from last year, so I think I put the Rosie Dawn cutting, and they sell live plugs, so that's Rosie Dawn Gardens, and I'll just plant the same thing as the Lord Voldemort. I'll just plant 3 or 4 of these fishnets and let them go. Look how beautiful this is. Huge plant. And again, these are not heavy. These do not seed. I just don't get seeds. Now, a lot of Coleus seed very late, but the problem I've had with these is, and they may still seed. They may still develop a few seeds, but they generally develop them so late that they don't get a chance to be pollinated and develop, so I don't get I don't get the mature seeds. Same thing with the Lord Baltimore. So I choose the cutting and rooting route. And again, this is just like the Lord Baltimore, really heavy stems. These make great cuttings. So now I'm going to show you some rootings and just in general how many leaves and just go over the watering and all that. Real simple. So let's get to it. Okay, this is a beautiful plant. Over the years, when I first started, I used to bring some pretty large planters in, but I decided over the years I'll keep 1 or 2 pots about this size, maybe 3, and again go the rooting route. Now in general, these are a wizard rose, Kong. In general, it's, I would say, I don't want to say 50-50 on how these last as rootings, because they're not as hardy. See, the stems are more of a, or green, they're more of a softer stem than the Lord Baltimore and Fishnet. I will cut them. I have one here that I cut a couple of weeks ago, and you could already see it's rooting. And I always use this vase for these, so I always try to keep these wizard rose as cuttings. Okay, so I really look around to see which stem looks the healthiest, and this is a pretty healthy plant, but it's starting to thin out a little bit. I'm not on this all day long. I do trim it a little bit. This is actually in my front yard, but I'm looking at this, and this stem here seems to really kind of it seems like a very hardy stem, like it compared to, I don't know if you see the difference there. See how it's sort of darker? It almost has a harder, it reminds me of the Lord Baltimore and the Fishnet stem. It seems a little harder and hardier, so I'm going to choose this one as a rooting. So I'm going to cut way down here. I'll cut right way down the end there at first. Kind of look at it. See if we can zoom out here a little bit. So now as rootings, you don't want a lot of leaves. I don't generally keep like 5 or 6 rows. You definitely want to get rid of the bottoms here. So just trim them. This big leaf down here we don't need, as beautiful as it is, but for as far as rootings go, you don't want a lot of that one's kind of curling under. So we're gonna just keep like 1 or 2. We got all that growth coming in on the bottom still. I'm gonna kind of trim that. Careful not to damage a little. See how those little stems kind of double up there? There's one over here. All right, so and almost like fresh flowers, I cut it on an angle there. And that's necessarily you have to do that. So this will be the rooting, and stay tuned here. If you're following along, stay tuned. We'll go. I'll get back to these as the months progress. So these I get at the dollar store. They're colored vases. These are perfect for what I use. I probably have 2 dozen of these, and different colors and so forth. I'll show you later. But there we go. Just drop it in. You're gonna get roots all through here. And it makes just, it's not only just we're rooting or we're cutting, we're taking cuttings and rooting Coleus here, but it's also decoration for your home. You know, I do recommend keeping them at a bright location. You want them in a bright spot, a window, a bay window, what have you. You don't want to just keep them in a bookshelf away from windows, because they're not gonna do well. And over the course of the months, specifically this one, but all cuttings, what's going to happen is the days will get shorter, the sunlight less intense. Yeah, I'm talking here in New Jersey now. It depends. If you're down in Florida, it's a little different story. But for wintered zones in general, what's going to happen is you may lose a few of the leaves. It'll molt. The colors will get less vibrant, much less vibrant. It just won't look as rich, and they'll appear to get thinner. But as long as you keep up with your water, you don't have to do, you know, in the video, I have many videos where I suggest changing the water every 3 days or whatever, and I kind of went away from that. I just make sure if the water looks dirty, if there's some debris, organic, like of a stem falls in there and it's floating around or whatever, I'll generally change it. But as this rooting, as it becomes a rooting where it actually develops a large root ball, I'll make sure you keep up on your water. And occasionally you want to change the water. I don't play with the root ball much. There's a little discussion about the hormone, the root hormone, that if you rinse the root ball too much, you're rinsing away the root hormone and so forth. But so I don't aggressively clear or clean the root ball. You know, I generally, you can see how the roots develop in a short time. This is only a couple of weeks, and I just make sure I keep up on the water. It's obviously going to evaporate. It's also from the plant. Some plants are pretty thirsty, and once the root balls are developed, you're going to lose water. So make sure you keep up your water. That's the main thing. The main point of my video today is once you get your Coleus into jars, into root vases, whatever, it's make sure you check on your water. If it starts to look kind of foggy or anything, change it out. Don't add any kind of fertilizer. Do not add fertilizer in the water. Just plain tap water. I don't use distilled water. I just use regular tap water. I don't need to make it more complicated than it is. Regular tap water, but just check it. Make sure there's always water in there. Keep your water levels up and change it if it needs it. If it looks dirty, change it and keep them at a bright location, and you should do fine. May lose a couple, doesn't mean there's anything wrong. You did anything wrong. It's just the nature of the cutting. Again, they may wilt a little bit in the beginning. It's stress. In my experience, like this fishnet, I'll lose maybe, you know, those bottom ones will develop and grow in the beginning, but I may lose 1 or 2 of these. They'll drop, or they'll just shrivel, or whatever, drop. But as long as the stem stays healthy and the roots are continuing to grow, these generally will last all through the fall and winter into spring. So just keep up your water changes, bright location, no fertilizer, and you should do good. So this one has a lot of undergrowth. I can argue I can cut these here. Don't really need, see, this one's kind of ripped anyway, so I really don't need these here. So we're going to get rid of those. And that's a healthy enough Coleus. I'm going to take a few more. I think I have 2 or 3 of these Lord Baltimores, but like I said, I generally keep 6. And that one on the bottom, that larger one. You don't really need a lot of large leaves. I like to keep at least 2 rows. But this one here has a lot of develop, and these will continue to grow. These will grow larger, and you know, over the years, specifically these Lord Baltimores, these are just so hardy that, you know, they'll thin out and get less vibrant. But in general, the ones especially by my front bay window, which gets pretty bright sun, south facing window, they stay pretty rich in color all through the fall. So it also depends on what kind of fall winter you have. You know, if we get a lot of cloudy days, if we get a lot of snow. Last year we got very little snow. We had a lot of bright sunny days, so generally the rootings were even more healthy. So these are beautiful, these wizards. I'm still debating on what to do with this plant, to bring it in or not, but I generally don't. I have a plant rack. I bought a new plant rack this year, so I'm still deciding on what. I may bring these in, this one possibly, because they're smaller and easy to handle. Okay, another thing, do you need a clear vase? You don't. It's not required. I like the clear vases because, number one, they're cheap. Get them at the dollar store, and the colored, they're decorative, and you can see through it. And you can see, you can check your water level real easy at a glance and kind of remind yourself, hey, I got to check the water, I got to put water in that. Or you can use these. If you have a regular small vase, you can use these, but the only thing is, again, you can't really keep a track on the water. You have to kind of look in it and so forth. And light, I don't know how much effect the light does on the roots, but I think it's beneficial for it. So that's another aspect. But I've had luck with keeping rootings in these vases that are you know, not transparent, translucent. So here we go. Again, my feeling is I'm not terribly confident that this is going to make it through the whole fall and winter process. So what I'm going to do, because of that, I'm going to make sure that this is in a really bright area in the front of my bay window. So we'll see what happens. I've never really I never had Kingswood torches where I kept cuttings, rootings. So we'll see how this does. Okay, now my next candidate is this Mariposa. This is a single rooting that my friend Sherry up in Canada sent me over last fall. So I am not going to be able to bring this big beautiful plant inside as much as I'd love to. I just don't have the room, and I get so busy with my Jim's Coleus seed sales. And if you're waiting, I would say in another 2 weeks I'm going to start my first listing, so stay tuned. I will shoot a short out. No, yeah, keep my day job, I know. I'm gonna send out a short that my seed sales is active, and I'll have a full listing of what type of Coleus seeds I have. Got new packaging this year. Over the years, if you purchase seeds from me, I put them in a Ziploc, a small package, Ziploc baggie, and they were kind of hard to get out. So one of my followers suggested I use like glycine seed bags. I'm like, oh, you know what, look. So I looked into it, and I got these perfect size glycine little glycine bags for seeds, and they're perfect. They're smaller, so there's less packaging to worry about, and they're perfect for the seeds. So I did a whole bunch of seeds the other day, so stay tuned. I'll have a listing and all the different type of Coleus that I will offer for sale. So that's Jim's Coleus on eBay. I have nothing listed there now. I have a shirt, but just go to Jim's Coleus on eBay and just hit the favorite seller, and then you can save it. And again, stay tuned here, and I will post when my seed sales go live. But anyway, I'm gonna take 2, maybe 3 of this Mariposa cuttings. I'm gonna take 2 or 3 cuttings, and this I'm pretty certain, just based on my experience, I'm pretty confident that this Mariposa will do real well as a rooting, because it has real hefty stems, very, very strong, and they generally do pretty well. So just kind of looking it over here, I see this one here right away is going to be a candidate. So we're going to cut this one, and I'm going to cut it down as far as I can. I prefer like a long stem, the longer stem, and again 2 or 3 rows of leaves, and you know, with some growth and so forth. And again, expect to lose 1 or 2 rows of leaves. But I think this is a good candidate up top here. I think I may take 3. So this one, probably this one, definitely that one, and over here. And I'm going to throw them in a big jar, and then I'm going to separate and put them in their own little bud vases. Okay, so now do you have to? You have a big plant like this. Now, do I have to get the biggest, thickest stem? Can I just get like a little thin one? I guess you can, but I generally found that the hardier the stem, the better it's done, as you know the case is with the Lord of Voldemort's and the Fishnet. So again, this one was my first, so I'm going to cut it way down here as much as it's going to hurt because it's going to take away a bit of this plant, but we're going to, unfortunately, the main plant will be lost when the first frost happens, but we will have this stem, and this is a pretty large stem. So we're going to, again, I start off with the longest piece, cut down, and I think what I'm going to do is take these two, that's already cut, and here, you really don't want any leaves or anything growing inside the water line, and I think all I'll do is just cut on a stem on that, so you can see how it's kind of, it's darker. It's just that's the type of it's just a hardier Coleus. There's some water spots and so, but it's a pretty healthy Coleus. I think it'll do pretty well. Let's get the next one. Sorry, Cher, I know this hurts. And I got a little maintenance going on here. We got some, I haven't really trimmed a lot of this here. I was letting it really grow. But we got this one here. This one's kind of got a wavy stem. So same thing. So we got the two. And I'm going to take one more, I think. And we'll still, I'm sure it's still gonna grow. We got depends on what kind of fall we have. You know, I mean, I've had Coleus stay out until November, so it all depends on the frost. So, which is kind of cool. I mean, it's a long season. So, all right, let's go put them in some water. Okay, you know what? These are I get natural honey from a local beekeeper. And these are such nice jars that I can't throw them out. So I use them for bud vases. They're perfect. They're clear, and they have the little bees, you know, on them. So we'll use these. Oh, we got one here. We got to trim. Again, we don't want any. We don't need any growth down in the bottom. So we're gonna put that in. I need one more. Actually, I have three, but we'll put the two in one. You know what, I'm going to take these big ones here off because we got the smaller ones growing in, and I think we'll cut this little curve. This is pretty tall. Here we go. And this one here, we're already pretty much done. Just kind of cut it on the edge here. See how that goes. It's kind of, I'm not going to cut that leaf. I'll just kind of cut that like there. I'll put this other one in. I'll put this in a separate bud vase. I'm not going to keep two. Can you keep two in the same? Yeah, you can. But the only thing is what'll happen after a while, if you keep the two, is the root ball is going to intertwine. It's going to be one plant. So when it comes time to plant it, you'll have to plant the two together. So, I mean, could you do that? Yeah, it's not going to hurt. I mean, Coleus is just such a prolific plant that it really doesn't matter. So that's up to you. But I have enough root cutting. I have enough bud vases that I don't really need to do that. So you can see. So you have your clears. Again, check your dollar stores, Dollar General, whatever kind of dollar stores or Target. They all have bud vases. You can look. I'll put a link online here if I see bud vases that are pretty cheap. But you can use anything. Again, I prefer the clear or the translucent ones to let the light through, but also so it's easy to say, oh, well, that's low on water at a glance, rather than have to go and look down and check and see, is there any dirt in there? It's so easy. You look there like, oh yeah, look at all that. There's some stems, there's some dirt or whatever. It's time to maybe rinse it, give it some fresh water. So I like that. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, the decoration. This is one of my favorite vases, and over the years, the past 10 years, I've always kept Wizard Rose rootings in this. So I'm going to put one more in there. And again, generally, based on my experience, the Wizard Roses don't always last the whole ride through the spring, but I enjoy them as long as I can. Okay, so I think I'll take this one here. Again, I don't generally keep, more than you know, 2 levels, 2 rows of leaves. And I'll either keep this in here. I'm probably going to take one more. So, and that's another reason why you can see here. Another reason why I don't really keep a lot of plants in the house, because of the bugs. I mean, you just have to make sure you don't get. But I generally, I prefer not to. And I keep busy enough that I don't have to. I spend enough time during the season in my greenhouse taking care of 500 plants. I kind of use it as my excuse to kind of recharge my batteries, so not having to tend to a Coleus plant in the off season. I do my seed sales, and I kind of take the fall and winter off, and then recharge my batteries for the following season. Because remember, it's just me, and it's a lot of work going through from the process of seeding, planting, growing, nurturing, separating the Coleus, designing pots, getting them into pots, growing them, fertilizing them, choosing what pots to go into, and so forth. It's a lot of work. I enjoy it, but it's still a lot of work. So I do use the fall and winter as my respite. But again, I will keep a few, like these 2. They're small, and they'll generally do pretty well at my bay window. Again, if you're going to overwinter Coleus in a pot, before you bring it in, just check the soil, make sure there's no insects there. You could treat it with insect spray soap. I'll put a link in the description. It's a natural soap, seaweed extract for Coleus, and just to make sure you don't have any insects in your soil. Treat it like a week or so before, a couple of days before you bring the Coleus in. Give it some in the soil and just check the leaves, make sure you don't have any insects before you bring your Coleus in. But I'll probably bring these 2 in because they're beautiful. These are really beautiful. Again, I have so many favorites and stuff. I love these Saturn's rings, Saturn variation. I'll have plenty of these seeds on my Coleus listing for Jim's Coleus, so I'll have plenty of these seeds available. Some mammoth Kongs I'm going to have. Again, I'm going to try to get these. I'll have a different variety of jitters variations. They may be green. They may be more of a purple color. But that's the excitement of them. So I'll have the jitters on my Jim's Coleus feed. So generally, this is the Mega Kong listing I'll have. I don't take these as rootings. These are monsters, these leaves, because I mean, look at the size of these. So I'll have these listed on my Jim's Coleus. These are one of my favorites. I mean, they're great container plants. I mean, look at the size of these monsters. So I'll have plenty of these seeds available also, and they make fantastic container plants. But again, I don't take cuttings. I don't keep these as cuttings over the winter. All right, everybody. So I hope again, keeping cuttings and rootings all fall and winter, if you're in the winter zone, isn't that difficult to do. Just make sure you check your waters and change your water occasionally. Bright location. I know I'm repeating myself, but that's how I try to teach my followers, by repeating the really important points. And if you watch enough of my videos, it'll be ingrained in your head. So beautiful Coleus cuttings, rooting. So stay tuned, follow along and see how these progress. I'll teach you along the way. I'll shoot a video like November or so, how these are doing, any problems I'm having, I'll show you, just in general to keep up your Coleus rooting. So thanks for following Jim's Coleus. Again, stay tuned for when I launch my Jim's Coleus eBay seed sale listing. Another couple of weeks, I expect to have that live. Thanks for watching. Have a great Labor Day weekend and enjoy. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.